Hello there. I'm Matt Mike. For those just joining me, welcome. For those joining me again, welcome back. So, a couple of months ago, I reviewed the movie Friday the 13th. A slasher movie from the early 80s, Friday the 13th is considered to be a cult classic for its chilling story, creepy atmosphere, compelling mystery, and memorable kills. On top of that, it's also fondly remembered for giving us one of cinema's most iconic killers, Jason Voorhees. At least it is to the general public that has never seen the movie. Spoiler warning. For those who have actually seen the movie or watched my review, you might remember that the killer in that film was in fact Jason's mother, Pamela Voorhees, who sought revenge for the death of her son many years earlier, blaming the camp counselors for not watching him while he was drowning. However, despite an impressive killing streak, our final victim managed to stop Pamela by cutting off her head, only to be seemingly attacked by a revenant Jason the next morning. So with an ending like that, how did they decide to proceed to the next film? By bringing Jason back from the dead? Sort of. Directed by Steve Miner in 1981, Friday the 13th Part 2 is a film that takes place 5 years after the events of the first film, where a group of counselors in training are being stalked by a mysterious assailant, who slowly but surely brings some of them to a brutal end. With the original killer now dead, who could possibly be doing the kills now? It's Jason. Despite the fact that this movie sparked a memorable and long-lasting franchise, the film is not well received by fans and critics, being panned for its pacing and lack of interest. Is this exaggerated or well-deserved? Time to dive in and find out. This is Friday the 13th Part 2. Let's review. So the film begins in a neighborhood where our survivor of the last movie, Alice, played again by Adrienne King, is living and sleeping.
Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees.
Oh, and how nice of her. Her dream is a summary of the events of the last movie. Which, honestly, I kinda like. On one hand, it is kind of a lazy rehash of the previous movie, which if you saw before, makes it kinda lame. However, if you haven't seen it already, it helps keep you up to speed and understand what happened. Alice eventually wakes up and goes about her evening, talking to her mom, taking a shower, all that jazz. And we get to see all of it. I guess this is to try and build tension, but it's kind of mundane and it could have been shortened. Alice hears a loud noise outside, but finds out it's just her cat. Deciding to give the cat some food, Alice goes into the fridge. Nah, I've seen worse things left in people's fridges. You don't want to know what a 3-month-old roast liver looks like. A mysterious assailant then appears and kills Alice with an ice pick. And while he may be a merciless killer, at least he has manners as he takes the steaming water off the heat. Uh-oh, here comes the title screen again. Oh, for a second I thought it was gonna... After the main credits, we meet two of our characters, Jeff, played by Bill Randolph, and Sandra, played by Marta Kober. They're on their way to Crystal Lake to train as camp counselors. Oh, by the way, they don't really explain it, but the movie takes place 5 years after Alice's death, which then took place 2 months after the events of the first film.
Everybody got that?
Jeff and Sandra call their friend, a fellow CIT. While the call happens, Crazy Ralph, played once more by Walt Gorney, pays them a visit.
And then
I told the others. They didn't believe me. You're all doomed. You're all doomed.
Jeff's truck suddenly gets towed, so the two go after the driver to see what's up.
Welcome to God's country.
I like this guy. He lives, right? I like this movie. Our prankster here is Ted, played by Stu Charno. He joins Jeff and Sandra on their way to the training grounds. Once there, we meet some of our characters. The one in charge of the camp, Paul, played by John Furry, Mark, played by Tom McBride, Vicky, played by Lauren Marie Taylor, Terry, played by Kirsten Baker, and Scott, played by Russell Todd. And I bet you're wondering, how come I haven't named off any of the other counselors there? Well, what's the point in naming off people who aren't even in the kill count? As Paul is going over the rules and what they'll be doing over the next couple of weeks, our last and most important member of the cast arrives. This is Jenny, played by Amy Steele. She seems to be having some car trouble, so Paul goes to investigate.
Try it.
So, that night, Paul decides to tell them the story of Jason around the campfire.
His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there. Some folks claim they've even seen him. Right in this area. The girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, she claims she saw him. She disappeared 2 months later.
I must admit, this is a pretty thrilling campfire story. Only problem is, most of the internet assholes here is this. Retcon. Retcon. What a retcon. 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 After Paul and Ted give everyone a scare, everyone has fun inside the main cabin while Jenny goes back to her room. Paul then shows up and the two decide to have some intimate time together. Unbeknownst to them, they're being watched. Now, Ralph, what did I tell you about watching young couples in a slasher movie? Don't you know that could get you killed? They never listen. So the next day, everyone goes out for a run, including Terry's dog, Muffin.
While strolling through the park one day, in the merry, merry month of May, I was taken by surprise by a pair of roguish eyes.
So, like in the first movie, we have several scenes of POV shots, both of which are used as either red herrings or actual being from the viewpoint of our killer. Well, not done as well, it still gives off a chilling atmosphere, and will become a staple of the series. Jeff and Sandra decide to sneak over to Camp Crystal Lake, which is now closed and off limits. They head out undetected as everyone goes for a swim.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Once they arrive, they find the mangled body of an animal, which looks vaguely like Muffin. A police officer then arrives, presumably looking for Ralph, and brings the two of them back to Paul.
Look, Holt. People say what you're doing with these kids is great. You got a good reputation. But if I was you, I'd have located in the next county. You're too close.
What will you learn? What will you learn? That your actions have consequences!
On his way back to town, the officer sees someone run across the road into the woods. So of course, the next logical step is to chase after them.
Oh, no!
The officer goes inside, because you know, that place looks so inviting, and seems to discover a horrible sight. However, it's too early to know what it is, so he's killed before we can see it. That night, most of the CITs head into town for one last night of fun, except of course for our kill count. Our main cast. Sandra, Jeff, Mark, and Vicky hang out in the main cabin, while Terry goes out for an evening stroll. Oh, did I say stroll? I meant dip. Also, if my gentlemen viewers will stop staring where they want to stare, you'll notice something odd. Before Terry gets into the water, her hair is perfectly dry. Yet, as she's walking into the water, her hair is wet. In other words, they did this shot several times, but forgot to wait for the actress to dry her hair.
Oh, that's stupid! Really stupid.
Back at the cabin, Vicky and Mark decide to play some games. And you know it's the 80s when these used to be handheld video games.
You mean hockey?
Is that what you call it?
Okay. What do you want to play for?
Position.
Dude, get a hint. She totally wants to puck. Speaking of people who want to puck, Scott swipes Terry's clothes as she gets out of the water. She chases after him, only for him to get caught in a bear trap. After he promises to stop goofing around, she goes to get a knife to cut him down.
Don't go anywhere.
Very funny.
Oh, don't worry, Terry. I don't think Scott's going anywhere. In fact, I bet Jason will make sure he stays put.
Where is she?
Terry eventually returns and finds Scott's body, and she then suffers a fate worse than his. An off-screen death! At the bar, Jenny, Ted, and Paul start talking about Jason. Since she's currently studying psychology, Jenny ponders what Jason would be like today.
Well, what would it be like today? Some kind of out-of-control psychopath? A frightened retard? A child trapped in a man's body?
A celebrity? An icon of horror? A guy so famous that he actually went on a talk show to promote one of his movies? Everyone back at the camp begins to get intimate. While Vicky's getting ready, Mark waits on the deck for her. Oh man, and Mark didn't even get to talk about his sex life. Well, Sandra and Jeff don't fare well either, as Jason goes to finish them off in a similar kill from the first movie. Vicky returns wondering where everyone is, so she goes upstairs to find out.
Sandra.
Hey, he was trying to nap. Leave him be. Now, for those unaccustomed to the franchise, I bet you're thinking, that's not Jason. He wears a hockey mask. Well, like there's a common misconception about who the killer is in the first movie, there's also a little bit of confusion about Jason's iconic headwear. You see, in his introduction, which is this movie, he does not have a hockey mask. Instead, he wears a burlap sack to cover his face. It's not until the next movie where Jason gains his iconic mask and wears it for the rest of the franchise. Jenny and Paul return after a while and find the mess that Jason made. They go looking around, only for Jason to attack Paul.
This is bad. This is bad. Oh, and look out!
Paul is seemingly killed and Jason goes after Jenny. Once again, we are treated to a chase scene across the entire camp, where Jenny comes across the bodies of the victims. While not as interesting as the first chase in the previous movie, this one still delivers pretty well. It's got good tension, close calls, and plenty of scares. The only moment I question is when Jenny is hiding in her cabin. She hides under the bed and almost escapes Jason's eye, only to reveal herself after seeing a rat and peeing herself from fear. I question this because you're being chased by a psychotic hermit, and the thing that makes you piss yourself is a tiny rodent.
You are made of stupid.
The chase eventually leads into the woods, where Jenny stumbles on Jason's hut. She hides deeper inside, and we discover what the officer saw earlier, a shrine to Jason's mother. Wait, it's been at least 5 years since we've last seen the head of Pamela Voorhees, yet it hasn't really decayed that much. What, did Jason learn how to mummify things in his time alone? Actually that could be logical. Everyone needs a hobby. Deciding to put her psychology studies to use, Jenny dons Pamela's sweater and makes Jason think that it's his mother come back from the dead. Not only does it seem to work, but we also get to see Betsy Palmer again.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jenny moves a bit too far and Jason spies his mother's head, ending the ruse. Thankfully, Paul is still alive and attacks Jason again. While our killer is distracted, Jenny grabs Jason's machete and goes for the movie's killing blow. No, I don't really get the impression that that's enough to kill him. At least it'll leave a mark. With Jason seemingly killed, Paul and Jenny head back to camp to tend to Jenny's wounds. When they arrive, however, they hear a strange noise outside.
You
Aww. Well, at least Muffin is still alive. Or is she?
What the hell was that?
However, it all appears to be just a dream, as Jenny is taken into an ambulance. Our movie then ends on a shot of Pamela Voorhees' head. And that was Friday the 13th Part 2. Believe it or not, this one's actually my favorite of the franchise. Okay, to clarify, I do not think this one is necessarily as good as the first. However, for better or worse, it's still a good addition to the franchise. The characters are still good and engaging, the setting and atmosphere is still eerie and creepy, and though it doesn't have a real mystery like the previous film, Jason still manages to leave an impact and makes for a terrifying killer. Overall, I'd recommend this film. It leads to another good spooky walk in the woods. Thank you for joining me on this review. Until the next film, farewell.